My name is Douglas Murray. I was born in Lerwick and I was taken out here when I was about 2 weeks old. We moved into where we are now at the end of the road in 1944. Jack Rather was born in the house that we stayed in up past here. He was a famous photographer. He was a nephew of Charles Rather, who had the last boat there with the roof on. This was one of the busiest stations in Shetland at one time for the fishing. There was a violent storm in the month of July. In 1881, some call it a gloop disaster. The sea covered that big high rock, that's Busky, which is about 80-90 feet high. There was a boat came in on the back of the wave onto the beach, and the sea put it right to the green grass. The people ashore, they ran down and carried boat and mine and fish all up out of the way of the next wave. And quite a lot of the boats were lost. The disaster was the beginning of the end of the fishing. Each boat had a building of its own, what we call a bird or a booth. And when the fishermen were ashore, they would stay in the booths. If you're looking over the end of the wall in here in this house, you'll see where they had their bed. There were stones raised up from the floor, and then there was heather on the top of the stones, and then straw on the top of that. There were what we call presses, cupboards for holding their gear. You open the door and put in quickly what you're putting in and shut it quick again. Charles Rather's lodge is a small press in the gable end of the house, and there's a flat white stone, quartz stone, where they kept the butter. You can lay your hand on the white stone and it's fairly cold, and if you lay them on one of the ordinary ones, it's a lot warmer. Thatched roofs, turf laid on the top, and straw on the top of that was held down with ropes and stones. With that roof, well, you had the flat wooden boards laid across, and then what we call felt put on the top, and then it was tarred with brush. That's what we call a false chimney. That's like a long wooden box going up the inside of the wall, and then out through the roof and chimney on the top. The boat's crew, that would have been 7. Some belonged to Delting down near Sulmo. Some came from West Yell, some from Gloop, and some came, well, from the west side of Shetland, from Wales. It was like the few fallouts, I don't know. But people, there's that amount of people, they all couldn't agree, I suppose. The fishing was done with big open boats with 6 oars, and they went 40 miles off the land. If there was no wind, they had to row. Then there was 7 miles of lines to be set and hauled again, and then 40 miles back. Most of them anchored down here in the Easter week, but some anchored with fine weather out on the other side. The Nust, it's a building shaped like a boat. So that's where they pulled up the boats when the weather was bad. When they were thinking to go to fish, if they weren't sure about the weather, Robert Blance, call him the king of the fishers. He would go up on the top of this knowe here and lie flat on his back and look on the top of the sky. If he got up quickly and went to his house, then they knew they were going off. But if he got up slowly and wandered down, they knew they weren't going. They weighed the fish with they called the bismer. The old weighing scales, there's a long piece of iron with a weight on one end and a tub on the other. The fish were washed, they were laid on a table, and a knife was run down along what we call the rug. It's the backbone of the fish, so that they were flat. and they were put into salt for a day or two and then laid out on the stones to dry. The landlord operated the selling of them. And that's about it.